Hello, and welcome to Full Sail's Tech Tuesday. My name is Dr. Rebecca Leese, and I'm the Program Director for the Computer Science and User Experience programs here at Full Sail. Today we are talking about Teams of Tomorrow, the NASA Horizon story, and we are streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. We're going to talk a little bit today about our spring hackathon and game jam and how we focused in on the Horizons challenge for our specific topic. We're going to show a little bit about some of our projects and explore how game design fits into space innovation. Before we go into that, though, I wanted to have my co-host introduce herself. This is Phoebe Elefante. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks so much for having me on. My name is Phoebe Elefante. I'm the program director of the game design degrees here at Full Sail. And I am so excited to talk about the Horizons Challenge and our super intensive hack and jam kickoff event that started things off for us. But before I do, let's welcome our esteemed guests who are joining us today from xFoundry, who are the hosts and creators of the Horizons Challenge. Hi, guys. Welcome. Would you please take a moment to introduce yourselves? Let's start with Alison. Hey, guys. I'm so sorry, but I can't hear what you're saying. I hope our audience can hear what you're saying, but we in the production booth can't hear you. That's better. Uh-oh, are we having technical problems or is it just me? Oh, our guests are having some muted problems. All right. So with that, we will welcome our guests in a moment once they've had an opportunity to troubleshoot their sound. We will welcome them cordially once they're ready to do that. But in the meantime, Dr. Leese, why don't you talk a little bit about the event that we hosted here on campus, and then once we have the xFoundry folks back in, we'll have them introduce themselves and talk about that piece of it.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that kind of comes up when we're talking about this is how did this event come about, right? And last year, we, Full Sail, were invited to the Power Source Summit by Dr. Crystal Johnson. She is
from NASA, right?
She's with NASA, and she was super impressed by all of the things that our students were doing, the type of curriculum that we have here, our educational structure, and she wanted us to participate in this Horizons Challenge. So she further invited us to come and participate.
Yeah. And actually, bragging rights, we were the only, Full Sail was the only university that was invited to participate in the Power Source Summit, which is obviously a huge honor and really an unbelievable opportunity to interact with people in the realm of space tech and all of the innovation and technology development that's happening around NASA's efforts to further explore space and consider, aspects of human habitation in space for long-term exploration and that sort of thing. So really an amazing, amazing event that helped to inspire and build that relationship.
Yeah. So in terms of how did that eventually end up into what we did with the hackathon, we essentially kind of focused in on from April 25th to 27th, so a very short amount of time. We focused in on how do we provide an event where students can kind of come together, form multidisciplinary teams, focus in on a project related to space exploration, and how can they add that potential project to their portfolio. So we focused at that point on the NEXPLORE 2040 Horizons Challenge, which is organized by xFoundry in collaboration with NASA. And we brought together a whole bunch of different artists, a whole bunch of different innovators and technologists, and all of these students and recent alumni pitched a solution for a potential project or problem area. And we'll talk a little bit more about problem versus solution a little bit further in the episode.
Sure. I'm just going to skip ahead since we don't have Phillip and Alison back with us yet. But just so that, people kind of understand what we were doing from April 25th to 27th. So for this year, 2025, we in Emerging Tech were anxious to create some opportunities for our students to collaborate outside of the classroom, really without the consequences and the timeline and the pressures of a graded exercise, and to really just provide some creative opportunities, that would be portfolio builders, that would allow students and recent alumni to get their hands on some exciting technologies and tools. And so we already had planned to have a hackathon and a game jam scheduled around this time of the year. And so the alignment with an effort like the Horizons Challenge just created this awesome opportunity for us to challenge students, way outside of their typical areas of comfort, the outcomes that they're normally focusing on during classes, and, within our very structured degree programs. Oh, they're back.
Hi.
Yeah. Hooray. And
can you hear us?
Hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Welcome.
Yay. Awesome.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Phillip Alvarez, and my favorite thing about technology is when it breaks as soon as you show it off in front of people.
Perfect. So just like we were saying, we'd love to welcome our honored and esteemed guests from the xFoundry organization. Alison, would you take a moment, please, to introduce yourself?
Yes, for real this time.
Yeah.
I'm Alison Waldman. I am the Assistant Director of Programs here at xFoundry.
All right.
Excellent.
And all right, so we have Alison and Phillip with us. Okay, so why don't you all start off by describing the Horizons Challenge? Tell us a little bit about xFoundry and how you all are related to NASA.
Sure. So xFoundry is a new innovation initiative that's competitions and entrepreneurship as a vehicle to do so. So we have a few different competition pipelines. We have a 15-month program where students actually go from starting at the process of building an MVP to actually going through the process of building a startup. They have to make their business plans and sales pitches and a real MVP, because the prize of that competition is an investment in a company that we build around a solution that gets built. The Horizons Challenge is a new initiative that we just launched this year in partnership with NASA, where students are working on the problem statement instead of just the solution. So here, students are developing what could be the topic of our next 15-month-long competition. Now, how we are related to NASA, so we have what's called a Space Act agreement with NASA, which effectively says that us and NASA are working together towards a common goal. And that common goal, in this case, is helping solve NASA's 2040 challenges. There's 187 different problem areas that they've identified. You can go look it up on their website. It's very dense in a very NASA-y way.
You really need to have a Ph.D. to even understand
I have
a
a
lot
PhD
of the problems. Yeah,
I personally can't understand 100% of everything on that 187 list. So we selected 4 different topic areas from there, and we presented them in this Horizons Challenge for students to sort of ideate in. We have safe and sustainable food. We have peak physical and mental performance, portable off-grid AI, and diagnosis and monitoring. These are topics that are really important to NASA that they have to get solved before they can have a sustained human presence on the moon and Mars. And students are supposed to figure out what specific aspects of those problems are relevant to today. So that if you launch a company today, you're sort of scratching an itch there, economically speaking. and you can launch a company that will grow into something that solves NASA's 2040 need by the time they need it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, very cool. I think you guys have a video, an intro video to share with us. Can we play that now?
I'm Fiorella, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Horizons Challenge, a nationwide idea competition for scalable solutions to help NASA advance their goals in lunar living.
The Horizons Challenge invites students from all disciplines, science, engineering, arts, business, and beyond, to bring their creativity and expertise to solve the toughest technological challenges ahead.
We're asking you to identify a critical problem in one of our 4 focus areas: safe and sustainable food, portable off-grid AI, peak physical and mental performance, and autonomous health diagnosis and monitoring. Problems that, if solved today, could accelerate humanity's journey to the moon by 2040. This isn't just about space exploration. It's about identifying critical challenges that need to be solved on Earth too. And remember, you're defining the problem, not solving it. After the Horizons Challenge, the winning team's topic will then become the focus of the following nationwide competition, where students will then develop solutions to your problem statement. Finalists will also pitch at the NEXPLORE 2040 Summit, with the winning team earning a $2,040 prize and a head start in the next experience competition.
Are you ready to think beyond the boundaries and help shape humanity's next frontier? Let's do this.
Join Connections to register your Horizons Challenge team. You need at least 2 students from different majors, so grab a couple of friends. In Connections, you'll also find submission templates, onboarding chats, special topic webinars, and other resources to help you complete the challenge. So, what are you waiting for? Register now.
Very cool. I think I spotted a young Dr. Phillip Alvarez in one of those clips. Was that true? Was that you?
That was indeed me. You say young, but that was a year ago. I mean,
No, it was before the stress of your current position, really.
No, it's just same position. It's NASA, you know. Listen, getting technology on the moon, you know, it really ages you. It's a thing.
All right. So we talked a little bit about various steps, right? And for Full Sail specifically, our first step was to kind of kick off this challenge by having this event over the weekend for students to focus in on various deliverables, right? But could you all, I'm going to throw this one over to Alison. Could you talk about various steps within the challenge and what each one entails and maybe what the prizes are associated with each one?
Yes, absolutely. So the Horizons Challenge begins with selecting a focus area. As mentioned earlier, there are 4 focus areas that we pulled from those 187 technical shortfalls that NASA has identified. So from the start, it's looking at those 4 focus areas and identifying the one that speaks to you. What is a topic within that focus area that you feel passionate about? Something that you see as a potential of a solution for today and for tomorrow, something that you really want to see solved and you think is important. So on our Horizons Challenge website, we have some prompts and questions to kind of help you answer those questions in this context. And then from there, the step is to start working on the submissions. And the submissions that we're looking for is to analyze the problem and to tell us a little bit more about what is this problem in the context of research and development, of economic scalability, and then to start putting together essentially your pitch for this problem. Now, as mentioned, one of the most important parts of the Horizons Challenge is doing this with a team. This is not an individual challenge. So as part of Full Sail's Hack and Jam, like part of this, the start was to form a team. So we're asking all competitors to form a team. So we're looking for teams between 2 and 7, and these teams need to be multidisciplinary, which means finding students from other majors or departments to help you round out your team, because all of these problems and our submissions that we're asking for require input from technology, business, arts, humanities, marketing, and science. So from the time that you identify your focus area and start working on your problem statement, once you've done that, we want to hear your pitch. So you're going to put together a pitch video and a pitch deck of basically making your case of here's why this is a problem that needs to be solved now. Here's how it will help our local communities and how it will help the astronauts and eventually populace on the moon and Mars. And we also ask the students to submit a team video, which is different from their pitch. This is a really fun part, especially for Full Sail students, is one of the great film schools here, is to make a pitch about your team, because we're not just interested in your submission. We are interested in who you are as a team, why you as a group of multidisciplinary students are passionate about this submission and are passionate about this problem. So once you put together your submissions, all of those elements that you're submitting in by July 28th is our deadline. Those will be analyzed by judges here, NASA experts and subject matter experts on this topic. And then we'll be selecting the top 4 to 5 teams from universities all over the country who have the best pitches based on the parameters that we put together. And then the finalists are going to be invited to come to the NEXPLORE 2040 Summit, which is happening in September here in the Washington, D.C. area at the Amazon headquarters, the brand new Amazon headquarters here. And at the NEXPLORE Summit, the finalists get to refine their pitches. They get to talk to about 400 experts in industry and academia and startups and public sector who are experts in these topics. They're going to help them actually refine those topics right there at the summit. And then they're going to pitch in front of those 400 to 500 attendees, with the winning pitch being selected through live voting by our attendees at the summit. This prize for the Horizons Challenge, the winning team gets a cash prize of $2,040, in addition to an accelerated entry into the year-long competition where that solution will be developed by teams of college students across the country. And the winning solution for that competition wins $2 million, up to $2 million in investment to actually launch their company live. The Horizons Challenge is a way to kind of start that process, but to get things going, and also to have a chance to pitch your idea and get feedback on your passionate idea and your pitch by these incredible group of experts at the NEXPLORE Summit.
Wow.
That sounds super cool.
Yeah,
like I'm
it's
over
really
here.
Amazing.
I'm over here getting excited, like nerding out, going to Amazon headquarters. Like,
Right.
sounds really cool being able to like talk to a whole bunch of NASA folks.
Yeah, I
right?
think getting the possibility of being able to launch your own, space tech startup sounds pretty cool
Right?
too. Yeah, what an amazing. I mean, obviously we knew about this ahead of time, which was part of the reason why we were so excited about embracing this challenge
Right?
for the Hackathon and Game Jam kickoff event. So Phillip, I know Alison kind of reviewed what the deliverables are for the teams, but I know you had the opportunity to meet and talk with some of the student participants from Full Sail during our kickoff event, during one of our mentoring sessions over that weekend. What impressed you? Not to prompt your answer, but what impressed you about the Full Sail student participants? And I know that we kind of kickstarted things quite early, and you might not have had that level of engagement yet with some of the other university teams. So tell us how great we are, Phillip.
Actually, it was terrible, and I hate you guys. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was a really amazing experience. I mean, yeah. So you said that we hadn't had that level of engagement yet with some other universities. I mean, so we were our program got launched out of University of Maryland. So the sort of Maryland area universities, that was kind of an easy pitch for us. But to see this like immediate like full sail. I mean, it's now I'm using your name as like a verb. Full Sail engagement by Full Sail. That was honestly really special to see. So I have a PhD in physics, but I'm also a gamer. So when you guys approached me with the opportunity to talk directly to your students during your game jam, that was I was really both touched, and it was a very special experience, honestly. What I saw that was really interesting is that your students were a little bit beyond just the ideation stage, but also into this like really like immersive space in their brains where they were coming up with solutions not just for now, but for 2040. Now, this is a common pitfall we also see in students who are participating in the Horizons Challenge. Like, this is a problem ideation competition. But the human brain is interesting. The human brain can't just hear problems or think of problems without thinking of solutions. So to see them just like going full bore into that was great. And what I told them at the time was keep those solutions in mind. If your topic gets pitched, you're already way ahead of the competition and being able to think of a way to solve it, and potentially getting that up to $2 million investment in a startup. The thing about games is when you think about sort of other mediums of entertainment, books or movies, games are the special window into the world of the people who design them, where you are fully immersed in like a three-dimensional space, sometimes two-dimensional, but often three-dimensional space, and you can touch with and interact with and really have this method of communicating a story and a vision that goes beyond some of the other mediums out there. I think the students were already primed for that. I was able to relate concepts a lot easier by describing them in terms of like the games that I've played and I know that they've played, and they immediately latched onto it. And instead of giving this long-winded explanation of how NASA wants this thing, how these technology in space might work, I could talk in some of these like cool sci-fi terms that have sort of been distilled in us as like sort of a population of people who play video games.
Yeah.
And to hear them just immediately latch onto that and take it and run with it. That was just such a great experience.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. So I think just to set a little bit of the context, right? So we did mention that the Horizons Challenge really is a pitch competition. And we had kind of initially envisioned our spring event as being a sort of combo hackathon and game jam. And of course, the typical focus of that is an immediate dive into the hands-on prototyping, the solution. And I think, our students in particular are much more inclined to get their hands dirty and build and iterate on that solution before they've worried about articulating that problem statement very clearly. And so I think that was certainly a challenge. You mentioned in talking with the students that was something you needed to articulate and reiterate repeatedly for people who were moving, intellectually very quickly towards a solution. But one thing that we very clearly wanted to communicate to the students was that the hackathon and game jam portion of it is also a great way to articulate your ideas so that you can communicate and pitch them to people within the competition. So it didn't necessarily need to be that the prototype that they built was a proposed solution, but also a great way to invite people into the experience of the pitch or the problem articulation. And so, I think what we've seen with some of the teams was they really embraced the hands-on prototyping component and sort of said, hey, if and when we formulate this pitch and submit it at the end of the pitch competition phase, that's great. And we absolutely left it open-ended for them to be able to do that. And then other teams decided to just go straight ahead to the problem articulation, the presentation, and video submissions for the project. But I think what's cool about that is, because our students and alumni love getting their hands dirty, it was a great venue for them to, rough draft out that presentation, do, everybody shot their team videos like on a camera phone, right? Yeah. Like, everything was edited, kind of. And it was clear that they still needed to continue to do research and talk with mentors and understand some of the subject matter expertise that they're, kind of touching on in the articulation of the problem, but aren't themselves experts in. And I think what's so cool and what connects so well with Full Sail and the way that we do things here is really at the core of that is the opportunity to continue to refine and iterate on the pitch or on the solution if what you went with to start with was the prototype, right? That either one of those is a perfectly valid way to tackle the kickoff of getting something like this started. And of course, the other thing for the folks that did the prototypes is, as far as I understand it, they can still participate in phase 2 of this, or they can still apply to phase 2 of this competition after the summit. Is that correct?
That's absolutely true. So, you know, I'll say for people who went straight to prototyping, if you had your problem in mind and then came up with the prototype to solve it, go back to that problem, submit it to the Horizons Challenge, make it really compelling, and then we'll launch it as a competition, and then you come right in with your prototype and solve it. That is a perfectly valid approach.
Right.
Do not
Very strategic.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a couple of examples of some of the folks that started out with the prototype. We have Space Mall, which is from Team Bad Set, and then we also had Rover IT, and we have some. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
we got Space Mall, and that one was more of like a game based solution, whereas Rover IT is a little bit more of like a realistic, like how to navigate a lunar space, right?
Yeah.
And so there was some really cool stuff that was coming out of the teams that created those two products. But one of the other things too that we wanted to kind of highlight was that iteration process.
Yeah.
So Phillip and Alison, why don't you tell us a little bit about why iteration is so important for these types of competitions?
Yeah, so particularly with the multidisciplinary lens here, the iteration part is really important because it's very easy to sit in a room by yourself and say, this is the problem and this is how it needs to be solved. But when you bring in those team members from different backgrounds, you start to understand how they see the problem and how their expertise or their area of study can actually define this problem a little bit more. And so it is on purpose that our submissions are not just a 5-page research paper. There's a reason why we're asking them to flesh out this problem in a number of different ways, because it forces them to think about it in that context where they can't just look at it once and then hit it away. They have to come back to it. And xFoundry programs, we are an educational program and we are an experiential learning program. And so the purpose of the Horizons Challenge in all of our programs is this experiential learning element where no matter what kind of career pathway you are on or wherever you wind up, having that sense of critical thinking and being able to iterate and let go of preciousness and dig a little bit deeper in that critical thinking skill is so important. And something we talk about a lot here is that is something that AI cannot really replicate. And as AI is becoming more prevalent and technical degrees are becoming more available through AI, is what's the human element that we can bring to those technical degrees? What is the human element we can bring into problem solving? And those are the critical skills that our challenges are designed to help students start to develop. And Full Sail did an amazing job of showing us that your students are right on the way. They're already there and they're already thinking about it.
Hey, I say Full Sail ahead again.
Thank you. Yeah, yes,
Full
it is a verb.
ahead,
Yeah.
yes.
Full Sail ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that was you guys refer to that as the TEAMS framework, and TEAMS is I just forgot.
Acronym.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Acronym. Yeah. Excellent. And there's more information about the TEAMS framework and a lot of the logic behind it on the Horizons Challenge website. And I think it does a really great job of articulating, things that we say in the classroom and that we reiterate in these kinds of collaborative events, but never, it cannot bear with repeating too many times, right? Is that you're going to go out into the workforce, you're going to go out into the world, and you're going to be working with people who think differently, and embracing that is your superpower for sure.
Yeah. So why don't you all tell us a little bit about the TEAMS framework and why that multidisciplinary portion of the pitch is so very important. I know we kind of talked a little about the reiteration part, but like how would somebody like from media communications work with somebody from film, work with somebody from simulation and visualization? Like what kind of framework are you using, and why is that so important?
Yeah, so TEAMS, yes, is an acronym. This is our flip on STEM and then STEAM. Our TEAMS stands for T is for technology, entrepreneurship, arts and athletics is our A, M, marketing, S, and science. So we see all these grand challenges we are trying to solve, again, because the Horizons Challenge is not based on what can we solve for space. It's what can serve us now and knock down that first domino for the moon and Mars. And with teams, we understand that you need all of that to solve a problem. So for example, the technical aspect of developing some kind of technology for health monitoring, for example. I know this is one of the submissions that came in early on from Full Sail, is maybe developing the technology and the hardware and software comes from engineering. But what is that software accomplishing? You have to be able to communicate that to the people who want to invest and want to get involved in that. And that is where marketing and the arts come in. If you think about a product team, you don't have one person doing something. You have your tech team, and then you have your sales and marketing team. And they're the ones who are creating beautiful pitch decks. They're the ones who are standing up on a stage, and they are passionately making the pitch for their product. And then you have the testing team who is using the scientific method to make sure that their product is sturdy and to make sure that it's valid and will maintain its validity as time goes on. And I want to emphasize a little bit more the arts and athletics, which is the little bit of the dark horse in our teams. And Phillip comes from a science background. I come from an arts background. And what we have learned as we've developed these challenges and seen students work is the resilience that arts and athletics teach, the mindset, the athletics mindset is the mindset of a founder, and the understanding of a fail forward mentality where, again, the first version is probably not going to be great and it might fail. And if it fails, you get up the next day and you try again.
Yeah. Yep.
And
keep doing those push-ups.
Yeah, keep doing those push-ups. You go and you lose a game, you lose terribly. You got to brush yourself off. You got to get up and you got to do the next day. And you have to do it with a team. You have to rely on your team members to do what they do best, to bring their shaped puzzle piece to your shaped puzzle piece, and together make a cohesive team. So as we're looking at these challenges, we really want to open wider than STEM and bring and understand that the value of the arts and athletics and kind of the soft skills, which is a term I don't like because soft skills are very hard and hardy skills, but they are as important as the numbers and the letters. You have to be able to talk about the numbers and the letters, and you have to be able to move around them as the world around you changes, because of course, we know the only thing that is stable is change, and we have to be able to roll with the punches in order to be successful, whether as an entrepreneur or as a team member in any kind of career that you decide to pursue.
Yeah. Did you want to take a look at some of the other examples that we
Yeah,
have
sure. Actually,
from the teams that are moving forward in the pitch competition?
Before we do that, I wanted to pause just for a second because I think that is, Alison said some really awesome stuff about the idea of diligence and how diligence is really important for practicing your craft, and also, having that support system to help you practice those things. And one of the things that xFoundry has put together that is really helpful in connecting different groups and different students is connections. So before we show the projects, can you all talk a little bit about connections? What is that, and how can the students best utilize that resource?
Sure. I'll start and then I'll pass it on to you, Phillip. So Connections is our digital engagement platform that is where all of our competitions are our home base. And this is essentially a community space. And this is this is first of all where all of the submissions for the Horizons Challenge will go. It's all laid out there for the submissions to go through there. But more importantly, this is where students who are interested in participating in the challenge can go and find other team members. They can start to build out their team. They can essentially pitch themselves and say, hey, I'm really good at making pitch decks, and I'm really excited about a topic within the safe and sustainable food topic. does anyone want to bring me onto their team to help them to help visualize their problem statement? So we have a team building platform on there, but also the xFoundry team is working really hard to provide a lot of resources for the students. These are mentoring sessions and tips on what makes a really good submission, what can take your submission from 60 to 100. I'm going to let Phillip talk a little bit about the engagements we have planned for the summer.
Great.
Yeah, so one of the things that we really wanted to provide is opportunities to connect students with mentors. Mentors meaning people who are actual subject matter experts in some of the areas that we showcase in the Horizons Challenge. I realized that I did one of these sessions for you all, but unfortunately my knowledge only goes so far, so I do have to bring in some help. We have one subject matter expert who we're bringing in for a webinar here in a couple of weeks, who I can't say their name, but they are very big in food at NASA and have a lot to say about the safe and sustainable food topic. They do a lot of work there, and they've also done a lot of really interesting work with people outside of NASA, probably a lot of names that people in the public have heard of, to understand what NASA needs for food in the future, and also maybe what could be done today to move the needle in a way that actually delivers those solutions by 2040. So we want to continue having those webinars as we finish through the Horizons Challenge submission window, make sure teams finish strong. So all of those webinars and opportunities to engage with these people will be through connections. It's the one-stop shop kind of for all of these different engagements that we have planned.
Fantastic. All right. So now we're going to jump into the projects. Like what were the students and the recent alumni able to produce during their time during the hackathon? And the first, I want to start out with, we had talked a little bit about, iteration, and we talked a little bit about defining the problem. These are things that we also emphasize in our curriculum. Within the portfolio cycles, we talk about iteration a lot, and within the research components, we talk a lot about things like who's your target audience, right? And so we are trying to emphasize a lot of these topics within this particular challenge, and we saw a lot of really cool things like there was one about passive mapping. There was one about how to handle viruses in an alien environment, right? One of the first ones that I wanted to kind of highlight was Team Arcturus, who they're a 3-person team. And they're mostly simulation and visualization students. And right now they're focused in on essentially looking at off-grid early detection systems. And so the team is looking to expand. They're hoping to add in a couple of like media communications or a computer science student. So if you're interested, please reach out to us. I'll send my email or I'll give my email at the end of this. So Phoebe, why don't you talk a little bit about Nova Crew?
Sure. So Nova Crew was another one of our groups, a 5-person team, I think that really embraced the spirit of cross-disciplinary collaboration. They represented students in computer science, music production, the IT, information technology degree, and someone from game development. And their project focused on holistic preventative health monitoring. And they, are in the process currently of continuing to refine and iterate on that idea. So they didn't want us to show anything that they are currently working on. But they did submit the whole group of materials in draft form at the end of the kickoff weekend. And so they're in a really good position, I think, to move forward. Although it does look like they could maybe use somebody in film or arts to give them a hand. I'm just pitching for them. This is not something that they've requested.
Well, that's why they need that film student, so they can pitch themselves, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I'm just letting you all know that there's a team available, and they might be looking for you.
We also have another team that is looking for some additional students. This one is Team Big Bang. Right now, they're currently 3 students, mostly made of simulation and visualization and game development students. Their project focused in on portable medical imaging. And so they're actually looking for specifically people who are in the graphic design and marketing degrees. And they are hoping to collaborate with you on campus because they are a campus-based team. So we also have one additional team that is that did not participate in the Hack and Jam, but is looking to move on, related specifically to smart agriculture. And so that's another team that you can potentially join as a student who is interested in potentially working with some of the other groups. Like Dr. Phillip said and Alison said, we also have mentoring sessions. And so on the Connections website, they have mentoring sessions, but we are also going to be organizing mentoring sessions for the teams as they go along. And so at this point, why don't we kind of switch a little bit and talk about some of the different components of the challenge. We have some thank yous that we need to go through, but before I do that, I wanted to show off some of the behind the scenes things that we did. So in addition to some of the projects, we wanted to offer some kind of tangible thing for people to play around with during the event if they needed just to walk away from their computer, or they had a moment where they're like, okay, cool, my brain is saturated with research right now. How do I process that information? And so one of the things that we wanted to do was showcase some of the power of 3D printing, and you can kind of see some of the things that we printed out for them. This is a scale chainmail that is commonly used in cosplay, and we have a very vibrant cosplay presence on campus. And then they
Can I get a suit of that? I'm asking for a friend.
I'll send you the files, Phillip. So one of the things that they also did was, this is called NASA fabric. It's a modular. Right now it's made out of plastic, but sometimes it's made out of metal, and it's conductive, and it's something that you can print in 3D printers that are in space. And so you can be able to create whatever it is that you want to. And the students actually put this together as part of the event, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. We also had this little astronaut. He's our little astronaut dude. If you're not familiar with the term rubber duck debugging, we actually did something very similar where essentially if you don't really necessarily have somebody to talk to, you can talk to a rubber duck and try to solve your problem through the rubber duck, right? Well, we decided to use a little astronaut buddy as our rubber duck debugging, astronaut debugging, as part of that process too. And all of these elements were things that they could interact with, and then they could also post the process on LinkedIn or other social media to help them with that team documentary component of the Horizons Challenge. But now we want to thank the people that were helping us, right?
I do, but before we do that, I just did want to say, for anyone that's watching today's show or happens to stumble upon this in the next few weeks, that just to reiterate that the deadline for submissions for the pitch competition portion of the Horizons Challenge is July 28th. And Full Sail, as a partner of xFoundry, we are sponsoring any Full Sail team of students, and that includes folks that are within 2 years of graduation, remain eligible to participate. And so if you guys are just hearing this today, please form a team and get on Connections and submit an amazing pitch to the competition. And then let's thank some people, because there were many people involved, in addition to Alison and Phillip, who played a great role in helping to mentor our participants at the Hack and Jam kickoff event.
So we have a couple slides. We had some thank yous for our volunteers. We had many volunteers. Most of these were Full Sail faculty and staff. We also had a bunch of people help us with judging as well.
Yeah, we had several alumni come and serve as mentors during the Hack and Jam.
And they also brought us some really awesome swag to add into our go bags. So one of the things,
got official mission patches from NASA and the Artemis program.
Yeah, and we got the astronauts memorial patch as well, which was really cool.
Very cool. I didn't even see that one.
We also had a number of people helping with mentoring. We had some folks from Orlando Magic. We had Dr. Phillip Alvarez come and join us. And then we also had some donated prizes and swag. We want to just highlight here that Dr. Crystal Johnson sent us a number of boxes with tons of NASA swag in there, and so we were very thankful for that. We also got some swag from Advent Health University through Brandon Baker. And then we also got a signed Orlando Magic basketball from Zachary Webster. And we had a bunch of other prizes too as well. And then we also had some donations for food, which was fantastic. Everyone loves food, right? So we got some donations from Chili's, Marco's, and from Jason's Deli as well. All right. So we did we talked a little bit about what are the next steps, right?
We did. And I think now we can open to questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, and if you guys, we'll read off the question from whomever, and then once we've read the question off, we'll direct it to our xFoundry friends if they're the better ones to answer any questions.
Yeah. So,
okay. Do you want to go with this one?
Yeah,
This
the
is your
first one
territory.
is, how does interface design and user research used at NASA? I know how interface design and user research could be used in space exploration, but I'm going to kind of field that over to Phillip a little bit first to talk specifically about how it's used at NASA. Do you have anything there?
I interestingly have a good answer for this one. There is this fun metric called the NASA Cognitive Load Index.
Yeah,
that
NASA TLX.
that describes how sort of like mentally strenuous it is for astronauts to use any particular piece of hardware. A lot of that metric is like how good your user interface is.
Mm-hmm.
It can be the difference between, you're stressed out, Apollo 13 is happening, your command module has had an accident. You can now return safely home because under stress, you're able to use a piece of equipment versus not being able to make it home. It can be the difference between life or death. So NASA cares a lot about how good these user interfaces are. And they've gotten a lot better over time too. I mean, if you look at some of like the old movies like Apollo 13, there used to be like switches and buttons everywhere, and you had to break out a manual just to perform any sort of simple task. And now if you look at the SpaceX Dragon capsules, they have these cool touch screens, and there's like you can like press a touch screen button, and like a lot of stuff happens after you do that. But this is actually something that's really like key and forefront in any technology being adopted by NASA. We're beyond the age, honestly, where things can be composed of switches, buttons, and a manual. Everything that gets adopted going forward really needs to include these really slick UIs because, once again, as we ask people to do more complicated things, they have to be able to do it under stress in an extreme environment. Maybe in their spacesuit, their arms are barely mobile. All of that has to go into it.
And I just want to add on to that, just briefly, just to bring it back in this kind of context of a Horizons challenge, is thinking about these interfaces, and Phillip mentioned it a moment ago, is, okay, these interfaces need to be interacted with in potentially stressful situations. Actually, one of the other challenges we're running here at xFoundry is related to mental health and interfacing with something while you're having a crisis. And something that our students discovered, I think, in this realm of the same challenge, talking about this, is, okay, we really need someone from public health or psychology to help us in this design to understand, okay, when you're under stress and maybe your hands start shaking, and having really small buttons on an interface maybe is something that isn't actually going to be the right kind of interface that you need. So this is a really good example of something where think about, okay, how do we interact with something in changing environments, stressful situations now? And then looking at 2040 when we're having long-term habitation on the moon or on Mars, that the interaction, the physical UX of it needs to consider what that environment looks like.
Oh yeah. I'm so glad that you mentioned the NASA TLX, by the way, Phillip, because that was like most of my graduate experience was dealing with the NASA TLX. So my background was in safety critical tasks, and we used it a lot related to things like oil rigs or nuclear power plants. So talking about like how that affects us now today, right? And then how can we implement that in the future is so very important. And, just a little bit of like inspiration for anybody who's forming a team. One of the things was talking about portable off-grid health monitoring, right? And so, or peak physical performance or whatever it may be. And that hits all of the above, right? And so you can think of things like EEGs or other health monitoring stuff, and how you might be able to improve those systems in order to make sure that people are able to perform at those peak, components of their human performance, essentially, right? Do you want to go with the next question?
Sure, yeah. So the next question from online says, can we include teammates from other schools in the pitch competition? So for Full Sail's sponsorship, no. But I imagine that if you and your teammates wanted to fund your own submission to the Horizons Challenge, it is open to anyone to submit to the competition. That's correct, right?
Slight modification to that.
Okay,
so
please.
Where we sort of draw the line is universities have to either be within the same system or it's somehow related to each other. Right now, we're trying to keep these ties that are being built fairly university or university system or affiliated community college, whatever, specific, because we want a lot of these teams to convert to the next stage of the challenge where they're actually building those solutions.
Right.
And those programs are going to be run at universities. They're not going to be sort of distributed across, like you're not going to be able to form a team, let's say at UCLA, and have friends who are over here at UMD on the same team while you're building those solutions.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, so Phillip says no.
Yeah, basically.
I misquoted.
Although if your friend wants to make a separate team and compete against you.
Yeah, a little friendly competition.
Right.
I mean, really, it's all about making things more sustainable on Earth and facilitating space exploration. So it's a win-win for you and your friend to compete against each other from other universities. This is a great question. I love how relevant this is to both the immediacy of meeting these needs and their potential scalability. Do you want to read this one?
Yeah, sure. The question says, I'm a bilateral amputee. Are there any kind of projects that would help with others like me? Also, where do we find others here on campus that are interested in teaming up? That's a great set of questions. I'm going to address the first one. We have a lot of different efforts on campus that are specifically geared towards helping with things like accessibility. And one of those things is within our simulation visualization degree, we have what we call positive cause. And we've had some really awesome projects come out of this. We have what we call our SECO ladder. And then we also had one of our recent students go through who had tunnel vision and was able to create a sensor that determines how close you are to a particular object. So there are a lot of different efforts here at Full Sail that you can lean into. In addition to that, we also have our UX degree, which is an online degree, and our students, as part of the final capstone, they have to focus in on that positive cause aspect of, okay, how do I create something that is going to be a little bit more accessible? So there's a lot of really cool things that you can lean into. We already have some work that has been done in those spaces. In terms of how do you find students to, form teams with, I highly suggest reaching out. I'm going to give my email. It's rleis@fullsail.edu. Again, that's rleis@fullsail.edu. If you reach out to me, I will send you a link to our Discord event server where we have some team channels where you can start mingling with some of the folks on various teams, and or if you want to join or if you want to start your own team with some folks that you know, feel free to reach out and we can create a team channel for you.
I was going to say, I think as a member of a team, the person who asked the bilateral amputee question, as a member of a team, you present a great use case that definitely falls within peak health and performance, as well as in monitoring and off-grid AI as far as like maintenance and that sort of thing. So, health monitoring and maintenance, right? So I think you already are starting to articulate a problem statement. Please continue.
100%. Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
So I was so excited to hear this question. I would love to see this team submission because this emphasizes two things, very important things. One is that these solutions that we're developing, again, are for long-term habitation on the moon and Mars. And this is a future where it's not just astronauts who have trained for years and who are in peak physical condition are living off Earth. This is creating environments where people who are are differently abled and who are chronically ill and who are elderly and how they can maintain. So all of these solutions that are being developed need to have accessibility in mind and have to be developed for sustainability, knowing that even people like come with chronic illness or limitations, or, our bodies change and we develop and you get injured and all of a sudden you can't interact with something that you could before. And this is something that we're still working on here on Earth and needs a lot of work and the research that's being done here is very much going to translate and be a crucial part of how we think about sustainable life on Mars that supports humankind. And the other thing I'll mention too, and you kind of hit it on the head, Phoebe, is that your perspective, this person asked this question, is so important. And this really emphasizes why we need teams to solve these problems and why we take that team's approach that every individual has something to contribute. And, we base it on kind of majors and departments because we are in academia, but it's not just that. You might be a computer science major, but you might also be an incredible musician. And when you come to the table as your team member, you're going to bring your expertise in both of those things. And so we're really trying to celebrate the whole person and what they bring to the problem solving and not just one category of how they learn.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great expansion of that.
I think that leans into our next question, right?
I know, great segue into the final question.
So,
I think this is, we probably don't have time for too many more questions.
What type of degree would you say what types of degrees would you say are most important for future of space?
So when we think about current degree programs, right, the thing is that the grand challenges of our time are no longer able to be solved by just like one person in the lab chugging away. That ship has sailed. It's not full sail into the future, right? Where we're going is an era where we have to work together, right? So instead of saying what degree should I pick, it should be what problem am I passionate about solving, and then just kind of picking whatever degree aligns with that the most. If the problem you're interested in solving is, let's say, making medical devices accessible, you could imagine that you're really passionate about the portion of the problem that's tweaking the interfaces and making everything accessible for someone who is maybe a bilateral amputee. In that scenario, you maybe want to veer towards a UX path. If your passion lies more in the actual device itself, you want this like medical imaging device that you want to make, that's maybe more on the engineering side or the computer science side. But the point to start in your brain shouldn't be like, what degree should I pick that's maybe like, economically valuable tomorrow? We're in an era where times in the economy and everything are changing so rapidly. It should really be about what problem do you want to solve and how do you want to solve it?
Yeah. I think at Full Sail, one of the things that we're really passionately committed to as educators is constantly iterating and building upon and updating our own teaching styles and content and materials and upgrading our technical tools and all of those things. And so this final question, I think, helps to kind of articulate some of that, but I look forward to your answer. The question is, what advice would you give to students and educators who want to integrate Teams-style projects into their curriculum?
So I think this goes back towards thinking about the problem first. So if you're trying to integrate the Teams approach into curriculum, which, by the way, I'm going to plug Full Sail again here for a second. I think, having now interacted with universities across the country, I think Full Sail does a pretty amazing job at posing the sort of problem-oriented thinking to their students rather than posing just like here's a degree path, these are the classes you have to take, here's your homework. And honestly, I could get that just from talking to the students during my mentoring session. They had already started to begin this journey of thinking about problems. But that's really the approach. What problems are you interested in solving? What's needed to solve them? You need marketing, you need the entrepreneurship, you need the technology, you need the arts and athletics, and you need the science. And then integrating that into your class goes to how do I bring those components of the team spectrum together? how do I facilitate some of these interactions where people might not have come from backgrounds that had them interacted before in the past. As a physicist, we're not exactly the most extroverted people in the world. So we might not have had opportunities to mingle with the artists in the room while we were getting trained for our profession. So something that would go a long way is during some of those classes that we have, if we have those facilitated opportunities to actually, cross-pollinate ideas and begin to form these solutions on how we tackle those problems.
In a more Full Sail specific answer to that question, I would say, please send your students to participate in the hackathons and game jams that we host on campus, because, regardless of the degree program or specialty, area, one of the great things about, real-time experiences and virtual world building is it needs everybody, just like we need everybody in the real world. And so, please come and make those connections with people of other skill sets and, devise your own brilliant problem statements and solutions to those problems, regardless of whether they take us to space or not.
That experiential component is so key. We have a lot of great industry partners. I mean, we're going to be at Amazon HQ in September. The one thing that we hear from employers are they're no longer hiring people just for checking boxes on a transcript, right?
Yeah.
It's now, how do you apply the knowledge that you've gained? And these hackathons, these game jams are a great opportunity to apply that knowledge. It's literally a test. How do you apply what you've learned?
Yeah. And I would also say just very quickly that what is so wonderful about the format of the game jam and hackathon that Full Sail did is that it gives the students an opportunity to recognize what they're great at and what they're not great at and where those holes are. And I think that information, knowing what you don't excel at and where you're not comfortable and where you need a little bit of help, is just as important as knowing what you're good at. And putting yourself through that exercise of saying, okay, this is who I am, and I bring this skill set, this hard skill or soft or hardy skill to the table, and I really need help with this. And it's learning how to identify your strengths, talk about it, and learn how to ask for help in a way that is in the spirit of abundance and not in the spirit of scarcity.
Yeah. I love the way this challenge just inspired so much curiosity, and that sort of process of seeking in some ways is really all that we want people to walk out of a classroom with, is a curiosity about themselves and the rest of the world and their place in it and kind of what they can contribute to it. And this is integrating the Horizons Challenge has been such an incredible opportunity for our students to really reach for that. And so, I thank you guys for being part of this.
Yes,
really.
Thank you so much. So, we have a lot of emphasis on real problems and real world education, and leaning into that, I think, is going to be very important, to answer the question of how can you integrate this in curriculum. If you haven't already, I highly suggest reaching out to Sean Phelan, who is our program director over cybersecurity and IT. And he has this really awesome example of how they integrate real world stuff into their project and portfolios using the Marconi law firm problem, and they build off of it in each one of their portfolio cycles. And so that's a real tangible thing that they can actually kind of play around with, which I think is really cool. Just a little bit of shout out to some of our other program directors. So one of the things that I really wanted to do at this point was kind of talk about what are the next steps. If you have any interest in helping a team out, or you want to form a new team, or whatever it may be, again, just reach out to us. I'm going to give my email one more time.
Should we send them to the events page actually instead?
Sure.
The emerging tech events page?
Yeah, we have an emerging tech events page. I don't have the link right with me.
We can definitely drop it on the socials.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then also, if you have any other questions, feel free to post them on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and we will make sure that they get to the right spot so that you can get those questions answered. Or you can reach out via email or on the events page as well. And then also, if you like what you've seen today, feel free to subscribe or click notify me on YouTube, or if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, please feel free to hit the watch button. button. And then also for anybody who is a student, if you want to participate in a future hackathon or game jam, you can also get community GPS points. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so very much to our guests, Alison and Phillip. And we will see you all later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.